Hey bakers, Martin here in the studio today, and we're making Pick Your Pan pizza. This is a versatile, basic pizza dough that can be made in an afternoon. You can bake it in a cast iron pan or a half sheet tray or a Detroit style pizza pan. Come along, let's make it. Okay, let's do the mix. It's pretty basic. This dough is flour, water, salt, yeast, and a little bit of olive oil. I add the olive oil because I want it to give that extra crispness to the dough in the pan. It's got a little bit of yeast. You know, we're using bread flour today because what I want with this pan pizza is I want to have the dough go vertical. And anytime I'm thinking about something that I really want to go vertically, I want strength. And so in this case, I'm using bread flour because we know that, you know, bread flour is the superpower of flour. It's super powered flour. It gives that tug that I want. It gets the loft that I want. It'll have a more open interior structure because I'm using quite a bit of water. So it's a basic mix. Let's do it. So it's about 3 cups of bread flour, 360 grams. I've got a little bit of yeast. That's a little bit of instant yeast. It can go right in there. And the salt can go right on top of it. Nothing will be hurt. It's a myth that salt and yeast can't live together. It's okay. Stir those to combine just a little bit. And then I need some water, 270 grams. And this water is slightly warm, just slightly warm. Again, olive oil in the dough for crispness and flavor. I mean, let's face it. It smells really good. Okay. You just stir this to combine. There's no kneading. You don't need a mixer. And if it seems a little bit dry to you once you have it all together, you can add some water. But I don't know, if you're using a scale, chances are you're going to have the right consistency to your dough. That's pretty much it. I might take just a second and scrape the bowl down and then give a couple presses to it. That's it, done. So, this is going to rest for 15 minutes and then we'll come back and do a bowl fold. That's that sort of pick up, stretch, press situation. We'll do that twice and then it'll rest for a while before the divide. So just a simple mix to combine and then 2 bowl folds and then it rests. See you in a minute. I had one that it was so good that the hair came around. It was like a collar. I had a collar mullet and it was very short on top. I mean, it was pure business up here. But take a look around the side, woo, partying back. All right, so the dough's had 15 minutes and it doesn't look like much is happening. But when I feel it, I think I'll notice that it's a little marshmallowy, and it is, which is nice. So it's starting to move. And so I'm gonna give a bowl fold. We really didn't mix it much at the beginning, and this bowl fold will help it to get organized and it'll develop a little bit more strength. So I just make my way around the bowl as many times as it takes. And once I'm done, I just invert it and smooth it out a little bit, and then we'll see it again in 15 minutes. Happy nappy. So fold number 2, we're going to do the same thing as fold number 1. The dough's a little different. It's starting to develop a little bit of strength, and it's also building a little bit of extensibility. So same as the first time, I just make my way around the outside of the dough, stretching and pressing. And you can see that in that short amount of time, I mean, this dough is not super strong, but it has some strength, you know? This is only at the 30-minute mark. Look at that. So, make my way around once, and then I like to turn it over in the bowl. And that's it. See you in a little bit, 60 to 90 minutes. We're just gonna let it rise, and then we'll come back. We'll dump it into a pan, and then we'll bake it. Okie dokie. So the dough has risen after the folds, and now we're ready to put it into the pan. Let's do that. So this rise is 60 to 90 minutes, but you know what? If it goes 2 hours, don't worry about it. That's all just helping to develop flavor and also make it easier to extend once you get it into the pan. So after the folds, the dough rises a little bit, and now we're gonna dump it into the pan. Okay, but first, a lesson. This is called Pick Your Pan Pizza because you can put it into a variety of forms. I'm going to use this Detroit pizza pan from Lloyd. It's black, it conducts heat really well, it gives me the crispness that I want. If you don't have that, don't fret. You can also divide the dough into 2 pieces and you can put it into a 10-inch cast iron. So you can put it into the Lloyd pan, or you can put it into cast iron, or you can put it into a half sheet tray. It works in all forms and you can sort of pick your pan. The cast iron is thick, the Lloyd pan is a little bit less so, and the sheet pan is the thinnest of these options. Now, if you don't have the Lloyd pan, don't worry about that. You can also use a 9x13 pan as well, okay? All right, so I'm ready to put the dough into the pan. So it's finished rising and I'm gonna dump it in here. Before I can do that, I'm gonna add a little bit of oil to the pan, about a tablespoon. And I'll just make sure that it's distributed, and then I'll go up the sides just a little bit. So this is important. When you put it into the pan, one of the things that's going to help our final structure and have some bigger air bubbles in the crust is if I'm really gentle right now. So just be gentle. Let the dough almost fall out. I'm helping it just a little bit with my hands, but I'm just being as sort of gentle as I can to get this out and maintain a little bit of the airy structure of the dough. I don't want to like put it on the counter and use a rolling pin and press all the air out of it, right? I'm gonna dimple it, but in between where my fingers go, we're gonna have these pockets of air which will sort of bubble up and it'll give it that cobbled top that I want a little bit. First thing though, before I dimple, I'm gonna flip it in the pan. So it goes in and I'm gonna turn it so that I have oil on both sides. And now I can begin the dimpling process. And I'm just going in with my fingers and pressing. And this is going to take a few passes to get it to stretch out to where I want it. And if it resists, you can just give it a few minutes. Give it 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Just come back and sort of give it some help. So now the dough is going to sit for 45 to 60 minutes. If it needs to be longer than that, that's okay. It's not going to hurt the dough. It's not going to collapse. So we'll leave it covered 45 to 60 minutes, and during that time, it's going to get a little bit more, just a little bit more bubbly and a little bit lighter. All right, time to bake the pizza. So it's been about 45 to 60 minutes. If it's been longer than that, it's okay, 75, 90, whatever. Just let it proof so that you build some structure in it. And come in here, let me show you. So these bubbles are a good indication that we have good strength, thanks to bread flour. I'm gonna do a Detroit style version of this dough. And in this version, what I'll do is I'll par bake it, and then I'll take it out and I'll add my sauce and cheese. You could just sauce it and cheese it right now. That's no big deal. You do your thing however you want to have your pan pizza. I'm going to have a Detroit style, so let me show you what we're going to do. First, the par bake. And I tell you what, like a little bit more bake on that with some olive oil and salt, and man, I'd be happy. That would be plenty for me. But that's not enough. We're going to make it better. We're going to do this like Detroit style take using our Lloyd pan. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around the edge of the pizza, and I've just got some shredded mozzarella here. And the first place that I'm going to put the cheese is around the edge, because what I'm trying to do is create this sort of fried cheese edge crust. Now I'm going to go with some sauce. And you know, we have some sauce amounts in the recipe, but you make your pizza. You do what you like. I'm going to put some jalapenos and some Vermont Smoke and Cure, some pepperoni. All right, so now that it's topped, it's going to go back in the oven for another 8 minutes. I mean, until it's done. What you're looking for is a nice, deep, crisp edge crust, and you know, cheese that's melted, toppings that are cooked, and maybe a little bit brown. So back to the oven, another 8 minutes or so. So as soon as the pizza is out, you want to take a sharp knife and you just want to run it around the edge of the pizza, and that will keep the cheese from sticking as it cools. So you can let it sit here for a minute if you want to. Alternatively, you can go ahead and get it out of the pan. It is important that within the first few minutes you do get it out of the pan for the most crisp crust possible. So if it feels like it's safe to handle, then I go ahead and just pop it out. I'm just gonna take a knife and I'll get under that edge crust and then I'll just slide it. All right, so the pizza's out and it's cooled a little bit and I'm just gonna garnish it. I've got a little bit of Parmesan cheese just to add a little bit more, and then a little bit of hot honey. I like the sweet with the pepperoni and with the jalapenos. It just kind of works. Crispy, crispy, yeah? Olive oil in the pan, a little olive oil in the dough. Really, really nice. If you don't want that much color on the frico, that's cool. Just bake it a little bit less. This doesn't present as bitter to me. It just is really crisp and cheesy. So bake it to your preference, just like with anything, you know? So bread flour is going to give me that sort of open structure. And by giving it time to ferment and using, you know, really high quality flour, the dough is going to hold air well. It'll produce those bubbles really well. So you get this nice sort of loft, open structure, crisp edge crust. I can't even talk because I'm like, my mouth is watering, so I need to stop. Like, I need to stop talking now, Tucker, and just eat for a while, okay? Oh my gosh. Salty, a little bit spicy. The tang of the cheese, the crispness of that edge crust. This isn't too much color. Trust me that it tastes delicious. It's just adding some crunch to it. It's tender, but man, look at that bottom, dude. I think it's a great option for a dough if you want that kind of internal structure, but you don't want to take, you know, 3 days to make it. I think this is a really good recipe because it's a one day, half a day even. Super delicious. This is Pick Your Pan Pizza. The idea here is that a dough can be a versatile thing. You can take a single mix and you can put it either on a half sheet tray into 2 cast iron pans, or you can use your Detroit style Lloyd pan, or if you don't have that, you can use a 9x13 cake pan. The whole point though is that with good flour and a few ingredients, you can have something which is so adaptable, beautiful, delicious, crisp, crunchy, and exciting, honestly. I'm excited to eat this one. This thing came out of the oven. I was like as excited as I've been all day because it's so good. It's so dang good. So this is Martin and Tucker in the studio making Pick Your Pan Pizza. Try this recipe out. Let us know what you think. The recipe is right down here in the comments right below, so be sure to click on that, read up for all the details. Hope you all are well. Happy baking and enjoy the pizza.